The quiet truth you might be missing. She won't write it in big letters. She won't shout it across the room. She might not even tell her friends. But if she's genuinely into you, her actions will say everything. A woman who truly likes you often shows it in quiet, careful ways. She won't always say, "I like you," but you'll feel it in the way she smiles when you enter a room. You'll notice how she remembers small things you mentioned once and brings them up weeks later. You'll see it in how she makes time for you, even when life is busy. She won't announce her feelings, but she will show up differently around you. More open, more thoughtful, more present. The world today is full of noise. Social media attention, fake flirty texts, mixed signals. It's easy to get confused. Many men chase the loudest signals, thinking that's what matters. But often, those signals are shallow. Real interest isn't loud. It's steady. It's not built on drama. It's built on quiet consistency. The Stoic man doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't get lost in emotions. He doesn't overanalyze texts or replay conversations in his head all night. He watches. He stays calm. He observes what people do when no one's watching, because behavior reveals truth. When a woman is into you, it's in the little things. The way she looks at you when she thinks you're not looking. The way her mood softens around you. The way she starts including you in her future plans without even realizing it. And here's the truth. Most guys miss it. They're too distracted by what they hope to see, or too anxious about what they're not hearing. But the Stoic man doesn't move off assumptions. He moves off evidence. This isn't about playing games or decoding secret messages. It's about paying attention to what's real. No drama, no guessing, just presence, patience, and observation. Because the truth is always there, quietly waiting to be seen. 1. She creates space for you, without needing to. When a woman is truly interested in you, she doesn't wait until she's completely free to make time. She creates space for you in her life, even when it's full. That's a powerful sign, because time is the one thing no one can fake. Everyone has responsibilities, distractions, and pressure pulling them in different directions. So when she chooses to give you her time, it means something. It's not always dramatic. She might stay an extra half hour just to keep talking. She might reply to your message right away instead of letting it sit. Maybe she adjusts her schedule to see you or says yes to things she normally avoids. These aren't random moments, they're deliberate choices. They show that she values your presence, not as a background option, but as someone worth the effort. She doesn't just respond, she starts the conversation. She doesn't cancel last minute, she shows up early. She doesn't treat time with you like a favor, she treats it like a priority. You're not a break from her life, you're becoming part of it. A lot of men miss this. They think, oh, she must just be nice, or maybe she's just polite. But the Stoic man doesn't rush to feel flattered. He doesn't assume, he watches. He notices the shift from occasional messages to consistent presence, from passive replies to active effort, because that's the difference between attention and genuine interest. 2. Her energy calms around you. You can tell a lot about how someone feels around you by what their energy does, not their words, but their presence. When a woman is into you, something in her softens. She doesn't have to keep up a show. She doesn't feel like she has to be the funniest, the smartest, or the most put-together person in the room. Around you, she allows herself to just be. She exhales. Her shoulders drop. Her laughter becomes real, not polite. There's no pressure to fill every moment with talk or entertainment. She's okay just sitting in the silence with you. That kind of comfort isn't casual. It's not the energy someone brings to small talk or surface-level conversation. It's deeper, it's personal, it's safe. This isn't the same as someone being bored or quiet. It's peace. It's the kind of quiet where connection grows, where walls come down, where she feels like she doesn't have to be on. And most men miss this. They expect attraction to look loud, flirting, teasing, constant attention. But sometimes, the strongest signal is the calm, the way she's not performing, the way she feels at home in your presence. The Stoic man doesn't chase noise. He watches for peace. Because real interest isn't always full of fire. Sometimes it's found in the stillness. 3. She listens like it matters. When a woman is genuinely into you, one of the first and most powerful shifts you'll notice is how she listens. Not just hears, but listens, deeply, intentionally, with a kind of focus that's rare in a world full of distraction. She's not just nodding along or waiting for her turn to speak. She's tuned in to you, your words, your tone, your energy. She pays attention to how you say things, not just what you say. She notices the slight pause in your voice when you talk about something emotional. She catches the way your eyes shift when you mention a past failure or a childhood dream. And she remembers. You might casually mention your favorite food from when you were a kid, thinking it's just a passing detail. But 2 weeks later, she brings it up in conversation, or better yet, surprises you with it. That's not a performance. That's care. That's a sign she values what matters to you, no matter how small it seems. She doesn't just ask you the routine questions everyone else does. She asks the kind of questions that require you to pause, that make you reflect. Not, what do you do? But why do you love what you do? Not, how's your week going? But, what's been on your mind lately? She wants to go deeper, not because she's nosy, but because she's interested in your inner world. She wants to understand the man behind the face, the story behind the confidence, the thoughts behind the silence. This kind of listening is intentional, it's focused, it's present, and most importantly, it's rare. Because let's be honest, most people listen to reply, to have their turn, to sound smart or give advice or move the conversation toward themselves. But not her. When she's into you, she listens to learn, to connect, to understand who you are, not just who you appear to be. And she does it without making it feel like an interrogation. She lets you speak in your own time, in your own way. And when you do, she stores those words like they matter, because to her they do. She listens to the rhythm of your thoughts. She remembers the small stories. She asks about something you said days ago, something you may have forgotten, but she didn't. That kind of attention is how emotional intimacy begins. It builds trust without rushing it. It creates safety without smothering it. It tells you, you don't have to impress me. You just have to be real. And the Stoic man? He doesn't speak just to be heard. He speaks with purpose, knowing that the right woman, the one who truly sees him, won't just catch his words in passing. She'll carry them with her. He doesn't perform. He doesn't overshare for validation. He speaks slowly, calmly, truthfully. Because he understands that real connection doesn't come from how loudly you talk. It comes from how deeply you're understood. So when you find a woman who listens like this, not to answer, not to react, not to impress, but simply to know you. You don't rush that. You don't take it for granted. You meet her presence with your truth, because in a world where most people hear noise, she hears you. 4. She shows you her unfiltered self. When a woman is truly into you, something profound starts to unfold. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly and with great meaning. It's not about grand gestures or romantic declarations. It's about her starting to show you the parts of herself that she usually hides from the world. Not because she wants validation, not because she wants attention, but because she trusts you with her truth. You won't always notice it immediately. It starts small. She might share something a little more personal than usual, a story from her past, a regret she's held onto, a fear she doesn't tell her friends. She might say it casually, like it's no big deal. But to her, it is. Because that piece of her wasn't meant for just anyone. As she begins to feel emotionally safe, the mask starts to come off. She stops trying to impress you. She stops trying to always look strong, or composed, or perfect. Around you, she lets herself exhale. She lets herself be seen, not just looked at. And that's a huge difference. You might notice her laughing in a way that's less filtered, or being quiet in moments where she used to fill the space with conversation. You might see her tear up without apologizing for it, or open up about how lost she felt during a hard season of her life. She lets you see the insecure moments, the unsure moments, the times she's been hurt, or the dreams she's afraid will never come true. And here's the thing, she's not doing this to be rescued. She's not looking for someone to solve her problems or promise a perfect future. She's letting you in because something inside her wants to be known. And more importantly, she feels that you are someone who can hold that truth with gentleness, not judgment. When she lets you see her messy room, or the way she gets anxious before public speaking, or how she sometimes doubts whether she's enough, she's giving you something precious. Not the version of herself she shows to the world, but the version she usually guards fiercely, the real one. The one that feels too vulnerable to share unless she knows it's safe. Most people go through life showing the parts of themselves they think others will accept. The polished image, the achievements, the smiles and the strength. But when a woman starts to show you the rest, the anxiety, the doubt, the wounds, the hope she still carries despite it all, that's when the connection shifts from surface to substance. She's letting you witness her becoming, not just her best moments. And that kind of emotional access, that level of raw, unfiltered presence, it's not something you earn with charm. It's something you earn with consistency, with stillness, with being the kind of man who doesn't run when things get real. The Stoic man doesn't flinch when emotion enters the room. He doesn't interrupt her feelings with solutions. He doesn't try to fix what isn't broken. He listens. He holds space. He stays steady. Because he knows that when a woman starts revealing her unfiltered self, she's not asking for a reaction. She's watching for safety. Can you witness her in her truth without turning away? Can you sit with her in the silence without needing to fill it? Can you accept that she's a whole person, light and dark, strong and soft, and not just the version of her that makes you comfortable? If you can, then you're being invited into something real. In a world full of masks, filters, highlight reels, and emotional distance, being trusted with someone's truth is a sacred thing. It means you've become more than a potential partner. You've become a safe place. And that is rare. That is powerful. That is worth more than 1,000 surface-level compliments or shallow connections. So when she shows you who she really is, don't shrink, don't mock, don't look away. Stand firm, be still, and meet her honesty with honor. Because in a world that constantly demands perfection, the one who dares to be real is the one who's offering you everything. 5. She protects the connection. When a woman genuinely values the connection she has with you, she begins to guard it, not with fear, but with care, not with drama, but with presence. This isn't about control, jealousy, or insecurity. It's something far deeper, far more intentional. It's about her recognizing that what she's building with you has weight, worth, and potential. And because of that, she becomes quietly protective of it. You won't see it in loud scenes or possessive behavior. You'll feel it in her energy, how it subtly shifts when something or someone threatens to pull you even slightly apart. Most of the time, it happens in ways that are easy to miss. Another woman compliments you, and she takes a small breath. Someone flirts a little too boldly, and she moves just slightly closer. You mention another woman's name, and for a brief second, she pauses, not out of suspicion, but because she's paying attention. She doesn't explode. She doesn't interrogate. She doesn't compete. She reminds, with calm gestures, with grounded presence, that she is here. Not to dominate the moment, but to honor it. She might reach for your hand in a conversation. She might softly interrupt with a loving glance, or touch your arm to re-establish closeness. She might shift her body toward you in a room full of people as if to say, "This is still us." And she does this not because she doubts you, but because she's tuned into you. She notices how others see you and how easily connections can slip when no one's tending the space between. This kind of effort is rarely obvious but always intentional. It's not meant to mark territory. It's meant to preserve intimacy, the invisible thread that connects two people when the world around them gets loud. She understands something most people overlook. Connection doesn't die all at once. It fades slowly, through distraction, through distance, through the slow erosion of attention. And she's not going to let that happen without showing up for it. That's what this is. Not reaction, not control, but presence in motion. A silent declaration. I value this too much to let it drift. Most men misread this kind of energy. They think she's being territorial, clingy, possessive. But a Stoic man sees deeper. He sees the emotional intelligence it takes to be protective without being possessive. He sees a woman who doesn't operate from ego, but from investment. And the Stoic man? He meets that energy not with arrogance, but with awareness. He doesn't play games when others flirt. He doesn't flirt back to test her reaction. He doesn't use outside attention as leverage. Because he knows that the real test of strength is not how loud you can be when someone threatens what you have. It's how still and clear you can remain in your commitment to protect it. She guards the connection by noticing when it's at risk, by stepping in calmly instead of waiting until it breaks, by refusing to let attention from others distract from the one she's chosen to build with. He protects the bond by honoring it, by staying unshaken, undistracted, unbothered. Not because he has to, but because he wants to, because he knows that rare things don't need to be chased. They need to be kept safe. Together, they aren't afraid of the outside world. They don't need to prove anything to it, because what they have between them is strong, but only because they both choose to protect it. No shouting, no testing, just loyalty, just attention, just respect. That kind of quiet loyalty, that's not about possession. It's not about control. It's about showing up in the subtle, steady moments that most people overlook. And in those moments, that's where the real bond is built. 6. She brings you into her circle. When a woman is truly into you, there comes a moment when the connection deepens, not just emotionally, but socially. It happens gradually, and almost always without a grand announcement. But if you're paying attention, you'll feel the difference. She starts pulling you closer, not just into her thoughts, but into her life, her real life. This isn't about physical closeness, it's about integration. You begin to hear stories about people you've never met, friends, siblings, co-workers, and she doesn't just tell you about them as if they're strangers. She talks like you're going to meet them, like you should meet them. You and my brother would get along. My best friend would love that joke. You should come with me next time. She's not saying these things to be polite. She's laying the foundation. Softly, without pressure, she's building a bridge between her world and yours. Then one day, it shifts. She invites you to a dinner, a birthday, a group hangout, or maybe it's even simpler. She just casually mentions that her friends already know about you, that she's talked about you, that they've heard your name and remember what you do. And that's when you realize you've crossed into real territory, because people don't introduce temporary things to permanent people. They don't bring just anyone into the sacred spaces, the table where the family eats, the friends they've loved for years, the routines that define their real, unfiltered life. This is a quiet milestone, but a major one. It means you're not just someone she connects with during late-night talks or weekend dates. You're someone she's starting to see in her future, someone she wants to blend with the parts of her life that have always mattered. She's not asking for anyone's approval, not from her friends, her parents, or her circle. Because when a woman begins to bring you in like this, it's not because she's uncertain about you, it's because she's already decided you matter. And now she wants to see how you fit. Not in a test, but in a rhythm. How you laugh with her friends, how you handle awkward family dynamics, how you treat people who can't offer you anything in return. She's observing, not to judge you, but to understand how well your world and hers can merge. This isn't about impressing anyone. This is about belonging, about giving you access to the most intimate part of her life, her people, because that's where the real her lives. That's where her stories began. That's where her values come from. She's not performing when she's with them. She's just being. And when she invites you into that space, she's showing you a version of herself that's deeper, messier, and more real than anything you've seen so far. She's not just saying, "I like you." She's saying, "Here's my life. Let's see if you fit." And the Stoic man, he doesn't take that lightly. He doesn't get arrogant thinking he's passed some final test. And he doesn't shrink back in fear, worried he's in too deep. He stays grounded. He remains observant. He meets her effort with quiet respect. He understands that this moment is about integration, not performance. It's about presence, not pressure. It's about stepping into someone's world without needing to control it. Because when a woman lets you into her circle, she's giving you something sacred, access to the people and places that shaped her. And she's hoping, quietly but sincerely, that you won't just visit. You'll find a home there. And when two people begin to move from connection to community, from you and me to us, here together, not by force but by flow, that's how something real begins to build itself. Not because it was forced, but because it was earned. 7. She starts using we instead of I. Some of the most powerful signs that someone cares about you aren't found in grand gestures or long speeches. They show up in the smallest, quietest details, like a single word. You're talking about something simple. A restaurant she saw on Instagram, a new hiking trail someone told her about, a concert happening next month. And instead of saying, "I want to try that," she says, "We should go there." It's one syllable, one word. But if you're paying attention, it speaks volumes. That shift from I to we isn't just a grammatical change. It's a reflection of where her heart and mind are starting to go. She's no longer seeing life as something she's experiencing alone. She's starting to picture it with you in it. Not someday, not in theory, but soon. And it's not a forced inclusion. It's natural, fluid, comfortable, almost like she forgot you weren't already part of the plan. She might say things like, "We should try that bakery you mentioned. We would probably love that movie. We could plan a weekend trip there sometime." These phrases don't scream commitment. They don't lock you into anything, but they quietly invite you to notice the shift that's happening. Because we doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from familiarity, from comfort, from the kind of connection that feels stable enough to grow into something more. She's not asking for a promise. She's not demanding exclusivity. She's not trying to trap you in a relationship talk. She's simply letting her language reflect her feeling, her hope that you'll still be around for what's coming next. And here's the beauty of it. She might not even realize she's doing it. It just slips out, because that's how naturally she sees you fitting into her future. That's how deeply she's already started thinking of you, not as a guest in her life, but as a partner in it. You're not just someone she likes talking to. You're someone she wants to share experiences with. That we is a quiet, vulnerable opening. A sign that she's beginning to trust the space between you. A sign that she sees potential, and more than that, peace, in imagining you by her side. And most men miss it. They write it off as just a phrase. They think it's casual, meaningless, automatic. But it's not. It's emotional language. It's a reflection of where her heart is going before her words fully catch up. It's the softest version of "I see us together." The Stoic man doesn't get lost in assumptions. He doesn't take that one word and turn it into pressure or fantasy. He doesn't jump to conclusions or push for clarity. But he notices, he receives it, and he honors it for what it is. A glimpse into how someone feels before they've fully named it. Because the way someone speaks tells you more than any planned conversation ever could. And when a woman moves from I to we, what she's really saying is, "I feel safe enough to imagine more. I feel calm enough to speak it out loud. And I'm quietly hoping you feel it too." It's not about speed. It's not about pressure. It's about hope without demand. And in a world full of rushed words and shallow promises, that kind of quiet, natural inclusion is one of the clearest signs that something real is unfolding. The Stoic man doesn't take it for granted. He doesn't rush it. He doesn't retreat from it. He meets it with presence, with steadiness, with understanding. Because real connection doesn't always knock. Sometimes it slips in, one quiet we at a time. 8. She notices what you don't say. Some of the most meaningful signs that someone truly cares aren't spoken at all. They live in the quiet, in the stillness, in the in-between moments where most people stop paying attention. That's where a woman who's genuinely into you shows up, not with loud declarations, but with awareness. She doesn't need you to say, "I'm not okay." She doesn't need a breakdown, a confession, or a dramatic change in behavior to sense that something's off. She just feels it because she's attuned to you. She notices when your texts start getting shorter, when the usual rhythm in your conversations fades, when your replies come slower, more mechanical. She notices when you say you're fine, but your energy says something else. Maybe you're still making jokes, still showing up, but something in your eyes, in your voice, in your posture is tired. And before you even have the chance to pretend everything's okay, she gently asks, "Are you sure you're all right?" Not with suspicion, not with accusation, but with softness, with care, with presence. That kind of question doesn't come from guessing. It comes from knowing you, from watching you, not obsessively, not possessively, but intentionally. She pays attention to how your energy usually feels. She knows the way your voice lifts when you're genuinely excited, the way you ramble when you're comfortable, the way your silence normally feels safe, not distant. So when the pattern breaks, even slightly, she feels the shift. And she doesn't force it. She doesn't push you to open up right there and then. She doesn't make it about her. She simply offers space, a door, a moment of presence that says, "You don't have to hide here." That's not just emotional maturity, it's emotional intelligence. It's care that comes from paying attention, not from needing answers. It's the kind of support that doesn't feel heavy, because it's not trying to fix you. It's just being there, in the quiet, without making you feel broken for not having the words yet. Most people only respond when something is obvious. They don't see your pain until you break down. They don't ask how you're doing until something explodes. But she doesn't wait for the collapse. She senses the tilt, the hesitation, the way you start pulling inward without saying a word. And instead of pulling back, she leans in. Because for her, you're not just a name in her phone. You're not just company for the good times. You're someone whose inner world she genuinely wants to understand, even when you can't put it into words yourself. And that kind of presence, that kind of attunement, it's rare, it's quiet, but it's deep. The Stoic man doesn't need to be understood by everyone. He doesn't crave the spotlight or validation. But he pays close attention to the ones who notice what others miss, the ones who recognize that silence isn't nothing. It's everything when it comes from someone who usually speaks with warmth and life. So when someone sees the shift in your energy before you mention it, when they show up for your silence, not just your words, that's not someone passing time. That's someone invested in your truth. And the Stoic man? He doesn't run from being seen. He respects it, because he knows. When someone notices what you don't say, they're not just close to your voice, they're close to your soul. And in a world full of people who only hear what's loud, the one who quietly listens to what you're not saying, that's the one who truly sees you. 9. She puts in effort without announcing it. When a woman truly cares about you, she doesn't always say it outright. She doesn't make grand speeches or seek the spotlight. She doesn't need applause or validation. Instead, her care slips into your life quietly, through moments so subtle they're easy to miss if you're not truly present. But for the man who's paying attention, her effort becomes unmistakable. It's real, it's steady, and it's deeply intentional. She brings you your favorite snack, not because you asked, but because she remembered, from that one time, weeks ago, when you mentioned it without thinking. She texts you before your job interview, not with paragraphs, but with a quiet, confident, "You'll do great." She doesn't need to write you a love letter. She just shows up at the exact moment you didn't know you needed her, because she was already thinking of you. She doesn't announce it. She doesn't keep track. She doesn't say, "Did you notice what I just did?" Because she's not doing any of it to be noticed. She's not making a move. She's making room for you, in her mind, in her time, in her day. You mention a book you've been wanting to read. Days later, she sends you a link to an article about it. Not because she expects praise, but because she listened. Because she stores details, not out of obligation, but out of genuine care. The way you take your coffee, the way you react when you're tired, the music that calms you down. She starts tuning herself to your frequency without asking you to change yours. And the world won't see it. It's not loud enough to trend, it's not flashy enough to brag about, but it's real. It's someone choosing to care, not with empty words, but with meaningful action. She's not performing, she's present. She's not trying to prove herself, she's investing in a quiet, consistent way that doesn't need to be announced to be felt. This kind of effort is easy to overlook if you're distracted by noise, the drama, the highs and lows, the cinematic displays of love that vanish as quickly as they appear. But the Stoic man, he isn't impressed by performance. He doesn't chase the loudest gestures. He doesn't mistake intensity for intimacy. He watches with clarity. He listens to what isn't said. And he sees the difference between someone trying to get something from him and someone simply trying to give. Because real care doesn't ask for credit. It simply exists. It shows up in the small things. Like the way she makes sure you eat on the day she knows you're too busy to cook. Or how she walks a little slower beside you when you're thinking deeply. Or how she changes her plans slightly to match yours. Not because you asked her to, but because she wanted to. Not to impress, but to support. That's love in motion. Not loud, not demanding, not theatrical. Just steady, just true. And the man who knows himself, the Stoic man, doesn't miss that. He doesn't need her to shout it. He doesn't need her to explain it. He recognizes the rare kind of love that doesn't seek validation, because that's the kind of love that lasts. So he doesn't rush to say thank you, though he does. And he doesn't pretend it's small, because he knows it isn't. He holds that effort with quiet appreciation, because he knows. In a world full of noise, the quietest love is often the most real. And when someone chooses you, not with announcements, but with a soft, consistent presence, you don't overlook that. You honor it, you match it, you build with it, because that's not weakness. That's not subtlety. That's emotional depth disguised as simplicity. 10. She laughs from her soul, not her script. There's a kind of laughter that tells you more than any confession ever could. It's not the kind that's practiced or polished. It's not the socially expected laugh people give to be polite in a room full of strangers. It's the kind that escapes from someone before they even know it's coming. It's raw, it's alive, it's real. And when a woman starts laughing like that around you, something deeper is unfolding beneath the surface. Something words don't always have the power to explain. At first, it might just be a smile, then a giggle. But as her guard begins to fall, so does the distance between you. The laughter becomes less controlled, more frequent, and more natural. You say something silly, maybe even completely unfunny by most standards, and she still laughs like it lit up her whole mood. Not because the joke was perfect, but because you said it. Because your presence gives her room to let go. And that's the point. Laughter like this doesn't come from entertainment. It comes from emotional freedom. It's a sign that she feels safe. Safe enough to stop editing herself. Safe enough to stop being composed and put together. Safe enough to be her full, expressive self, with no fear of being judged for it. She might start referencing your inside jokes. She might bring up that funny thing you said last week out of nowhere in a completely different context because it's been replaying in her mind. She may even tell you that something random, like a dog in a sweater or a weird commercial, reminded her of you and the humor you share. This kind of laughter isn't just reaction, it's connection. It's emotional memory being built in real time. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't require any performance from you. You're not working to be funny enough or trying to be someone you're not. You're simply being yourself, and she's responding, not with obligation, but with joy. This is what makes it so powerful, because in a world where most people are exhausted from trying to impress, trying to maintain an image, trying to meet someone else's expectations, finding a space where they can laugh without thinking is rare. And most people never realize just how much laughter reveals. It reveals comfort. It reveals trust. It reveals that moment when two people shift from talking to bonding. When a woman laughs with her whole self, not just her mouth, but her eyes, her posture, her energy, she's showing you something that can't be faked. Presence. She's not calculating anything. She's not performing. She's just there with you, open, engaged, free. The Stoic man understands the difference. He doesn't try to impress with clever lines or constant entertainment. He knows that real attraction doesn't need theatrics. It just needs truth, the kind that invites someone to be unfiltered, unafraid, and fully present. So instead of chasing attention, he creates space. A space where someone can drop their mask. Where laughter doesn't have to be earned, it just happens. Where she can remember what it feels like to enjoy someone, not because of what they do, but because of how they make her feel. That's what real connection looks like. Not forced, not perfect, just easy, just honest. And when the laughter is honest, the connection is real, not temporary, not for show, but rooted in something far deeper than words: joy, presence, and shared truth. Don't miss what's right in front of you. You don't need to chase love. You don't need to beg for clarity or overanalyze every glance, every emoji, every delay in her reply. That's the path of confusion, of noise, of fear. And the Stoic man knows. Fear clouds vision, so pause, breathe. Come back to center. Let go of the need to know everything right away. Because the truth about whether someone genuinely cares is rarely found in a single moment. It's found in the pattern. If she's into you, she'll show it. Not with loud confessions, but with quiet consistency. Not by flooding you with promises, but by being present again and again. When she chooses to include you in her life without announcing it. When she remembers the details without needing credit. When she listens deeper, laughs harder, and shows up fully without needing to be asked. That's not coincidence. That's care. And care doesn't always sound like a love song. Sometimes it sounds like silence that feels peaceful. Sometimes it looks like staying when the world gets noisy. Sometimes it's her letting her guard down, slowly, softly, because something in her trusts you. And here's the part most men miss. She won't always say it, but she will always show it. If you're too distracted chasing the wrong signs, looking for fireworks, declarations, constant attention, you'll overlook the very thing you're hoping to find. You'll miss the beauty in how she leans in, how she protects the connection, how she starts saying we instead of I, how she laughs from her soul, not just her script, how she pays attention to what you didn't say and quietly answers it with presence. You don't have to guess, you just have to observe. Watch how she shows up when things are ordinary, not just when they're exciting. Watch how she treats you when no one's watching, when there's nothing to gain. That's when you'll see what's real. Because real love doesn't chase you. It doesn't trick you. It doesn't exhaust you. It meets you in the middle, with openness, with steadiness, with truth. So don't let overthinking sabotage something simple and sincere. Don't let your past train you to expect disappointment where there's actually peace. And don't lose something rare because you were too caught up looking for what's loud, when what's real often whispers. Be still enough to hear it, and wise enough to recognize it when it comes. Subscribe for grounded, powerful truths on connection, emotional strength, and clarity in relationships. Comment below. Which of these quiet signs have you seen in your life, but only understood now? Let's talk about what real connection actually looks like.